Hello, Internet. My name is Roro, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I talk about every so often and I think about pretty often because it's such a huge part of my life. And it's being a creative, being an artist while also having a day job, what that means, what that looks like, how it works for me, how it could work for you, and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's get into it. So to go all the way back, I've pretty much been making art and music my entire life. When I was a kid, I was like in the kitchen banging on pots and pans with spoons while my mom's trying to cook, stuff like that. I had a drum set and a guitar at a very early age because my dad was a musician, and I've always valued drawing and visual art. That's not really my thing, but I've always been really interested in it and been excited about art in general. So I consider myself a lifetime artist, and I've been making art for my entire life to this day. And you might be like, well, you were a kid. Everybody does that stuff when they're a kid. But I honestly don't separate that from what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now is just a refined, mature continuation of that same energy. And that's really important to me because I really feel like everybody is has an artist within them. Everybody has the ability to make art. It's just a matter of if it's something that they want to pursue and they enjoy. And then obviously there's like different skill levels, but everybody has the capacity to make art. And I think in a lot of ways, kids make the most pure art possible. So I really try to keep that feeling the same in my art now as I did when I was a kid. But something I haven't done since I was a kid is work and have a job. And I guess technically in a way I have because the first job I ever got was I was 14 years old and I was a cashier at a grocery store. And I had that job for pretty much all of high school. And, I'm 30 years old now and I've been working ever since. So, in a way, I have been doing that since I was a kid, but it's obviously different. And I've made money here and there from my art, from my music, from creative things like that, but never enough to even supplement my income. Definitely never enough to live off of. And it's pretty much been a fruitless endeavor in that regard up to this point when it comes to money. When it comes to personal fulfillment, I'm so happy with the art that I make and I'm so happy with the music that I make because I think I don't prioritize making money when I'm making art. I really just make, or I try my best to make what I truly want to make in the moment, and then I worry about all that other stuff later after the fact. So this is sort of the opposite of how to make money as an artist, how to make a living as an artist type of concept. This is pretty much the opposite. It's like how to have a regular life, have a regular job, and still make art that you love and that you enjoy, and that's fulfilling. Because that's just been my personal experience up to this point. And I think there's a lot of people that are in this situation because most artists are not living off of their art. And if they are, they're probably struggling and not making as much as they would maybe at a regular job, which is a choice. If that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. But that's just not my personal experience. And I'll get into explaining why that is a little bit. So maybe there was a time when I was younger that I did want to be like rich and famous and, you know, be some superstar in music and art. But, you know, it was never something that I really strived for. And also, I've always just felt like I'm a normal person. And normal people are not super rich and super famous. And I have pretty simple standards for my life, like I require very little to be genuinely satisfied and happy with my existence. So I don't really need fame and money to be like fulfilled and really feel like I'm living my dreams. Another factor is that for anyone who watches my channel, they already know this, but I'm a loner. I spend a lot of time in solitude. So for me, my ultimate dream was essentially to be able to be at home as much as possible and be able to pretty much make music and art whenever I want. And that's it. That's really all I need. And that's all I want. And I've achieved that. And I've achieved that also while having a job. but I will say this is something I've only achieved in the past year or so because now I work from home and I work really early in the day so that pretty much by like mid afternoon, I'm free every day. And that was definitely not always the case for me. I've worked in a warehouse, I've done like furniture moving, like hard manual labor. I've managed an art supply store. I've worked retail. I've worked in medical billing. I've done a bunch of different random jobs throughout my life just in order to survive and get by and pay my rent. You know what I mean? Just like everybody else, artists or not, everybody else has to deal with that stuff. So the key thing for me, there's really two things that have been super important for me is one of them is lifestyle. What do you want your daily life to really look like? What do you want to do on a daily basis? Because you can have these dreams, you can have these goals, you can have these aspirations, but if your daily life leading up to those things is not making you happy, then maybe that's not what you should be doing. And I know there is an element of you have to put in work, you have to put in the time to make it work, to make your schedule work, to make your life work how you want it to, but you also have to be happy to some degree. You know what I mean? So I'm lucky enough at this point where the job that I have is conducive to my lifestyle because I get to be home and I get to immediately transition from working to what I want to do, my passion. And I don't have to commute. I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. I'm just sitting at my desk ready to go as soon as I'm punched out for the day. And I feel very blessed that that's the case. And I understand that that's not the case for everybody, but that's something that I think I had to strive for and I had to work towards. And yeah, maybe I what I said earlier is not completely accurate. I did have to do a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do, such as work in a warehouse, do manual labor, like work in retail. I had to really like figure out what worked for me and what I really wanted. So yeah, I did have to do things I didn't want to do to get to this place. But either way, this is still only talking about my job, my day job, and not my art and my passion. You know what I mean? And another huge factor for me that might seem counterintuitive to some people, but this is just what has worked for me, is I made sure that my job is not what I'm doing after I'm done with my job. So, for example, I'm a musician. I really love making music. That's my biggest passion. So, I made sure that my job was never anything that had to do with music because eventually, no matter what you're doing, you're going to start to hate your job. It's going to start to get to you. And if you're doing it all day in an environment that's not making you happy and it's not really what you want to be doing, it's going to be a lot harder to feel inspired to go home after work and do that same thing. So for me, I found a job and I found a career that works for me. It works in my schedule. It has nothing to do with my music, but it's still something that I enjoy doing. And I can retain a decent amount of energy that I can use for creative endeavors when I'm done working. And there is a balance to this that you have to find because if you're working like 12-hour days, 6 days a week, killing yourself, but you're making a ton of money that you can use to support your creative stuff, that might not be as worth it as you think it is because you're not going to have the energy to really put the time in that you would want to into your creative life. And that is important to me. So essentially, to sum this all up, most people are going to have a day job, at least in the beginning, unless you have like super rich parents that can pay all your bills, or you're super young and you're still living at home, you don't really have any responsibilities. Really take that time to really fully pursue your creative stuff, get established in that. So when you move on into the quote unquote real world and you do have a job that you need to pay your bills, you'll have a basis for your creative life that you can work your other life around, if that makes sense. And when you're building all that stuff, make sure that you're striving towards something that you enjoy to an extent and doesn't completely drain you of your energy. I know there might be times where that isn't the case because you have to get through certain things to get to the next place, and you'll have to do jobs that you don't want to do. That's just all part of the process, but make sure that you're at least striving to do something that you enjoy. That's not necessarily completely tied to your creative passion, because eventually that job is going to drain your energy and it's going to take away from your passion, in my experience. Some people might need to just be full on into one thing and that works for them, but I've come to the conclusion for my personal life that I need to have that separation. Now, some people might perceive this as like I'm giving up on my dreams. And that's definitely not the case because, like I said earlier, my real dream is to just live a comfortable life where I can be home most of the time and I can focus a lot of my time working on my art, my music, my passion, my creative endeavors. And I'm essentially living that dream now. So everyone's life is different. You know what I mean? Like, you got to assess what you really need and want in your life. And it's really hard to not compare yourself to other people. I do that all the time. But every single person's experience is completely different. And what works for one person may not work for another person. So really just try to figure out what works for you. And sure, do I wish I didn't have to have a day job? Of course. But for the time being, I have to have a day job. I would say now more than ever, I'm working towards trying to do different things in music that might end up bringing me to another level. But I'm so unregimented in that way, especially for anyone who listened to my last video, like I'm not very good at forcing myself to do things creatively. I really like to just let myself do whatever I want. And that's what's satisfying to me. So that has made it hard to build it into a career because I'm not thinking of my art as a business. You know what I'm saying? But sure, of course, down the road, I do hope that I can establish myself and build enough of whatever art, music, whatever I end up doing so that I don't need to have a day job. But with that said, if I do end up having this day job for the rest of my life while I'm working, I'm okay with that because I actually enjoy it. It's a very good career for me. I'm getting deeper and deeper into it. And it's a career that essentially will be around forever. I basically work in international shipping, and that's going to be something that's in demand forever. So yeah, basically to sum up, if you're an artist, if you're a creative person, in order to survive in life on your own, you're probably going to need to have a day job. You're almost definitely going to need to have a day job. And for a while, it's most likely not going to be something that you want to do. But while you're working on your art and striving towards that kind of thing, try to make sure that your day job is at least something that you can do every day or 5 days a week, whatever, that doesn't completely drain you. It doesn't ruin your mood completely. It doesn't overly stress you out. And you still have something within you to work on your art and work on your creative stuff. So that's it for this video. I honestly feel like I could keep talking about this, but I don't want the video to be too long. I'll probably end up discussing this again at some point later on my channel. If there's anything I didn't mention in the video or you have questions about, feel free to leave that in the comments. I also have my email address on my channel. If you want to reach out something more private, that's totally fine as well. And I put a new video out every Sunday. So if you like this one, go check out some other ones on the channel. Come back next week for a new one. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week.